Hello everyone, welcome to GSS Core. This is Ajay Shah, and today in our series of Pathways, today we have two wonderful speakers. First is Mr. Matthew, who has secured All India Rank 233 in UPSC 2019 with Political Science as his optional. And we have Piyush Chaubey sir, who is expert in Political Science and Polity in GSS Core. Welcome Piyush Chaubey sir, and welcome Matthew on this platform of GSS Core Pathways.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So today, the theme of this session is breaking the myths of political science. So Matthew, I will start with you. So there are some widespread myths about political science. The first is that political science is a very vast syllabus and it took so much time to complete the syllabus. What's your take on this, Matthew?
Yes, sir. It's political science, in terms of like the sheer quantity of syllabus, I would say it ranks somewhere in the middle. It's as much as that of history, but it's not too less either. So people should not think it's too small, because like there are subjects like anthropology which can be completed within like 2 months. Political science, we would have to keep aside at least 4 months. I would say 4 months would be a safe bet. But 4 months of solid preparation, I think we can achieve a good level of mastery on it, so that we can comfortably get through it. So it ranks somewhere in the middle. It's not too much, it's not too less, but it's possible to complete.
Okay, so Matthew, do you believe that the people like you who are purely from non-humanity background, like you're from a technical background, so anyone who starts the subject of political science, he can complete the syllabus in 4 months, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Matthew, why did you go for political science out of many options? What was your strategy and your criteria in this?
So I was very interested in international relations, firstly, and secondly, I had a neighbor who was a political science professor. So he asked me to read some scholars, like for example, Plato, Mill, Marx, and those philosophers, their ideas. I was very drawn to them. So I understood one of the criteria for choosing an optional subject is that it should be an interesting area for you, so that because we will have to spend a lot of time reading it. I understood when I started reading Plato and Marx, I understood I can keep reading them for a very long time. It was amazing. And also then international relations was there, it had a lot of overlap with the general studies papers. So in many ways, it was a great subject. And it's a beautiful subject. So there is no reason why not to take it.
Okay. Piyush sir, a question to you. What is the meaning of good optional or bad optional? Is there something like good optional or bad optional?
I think that in terms of its content, there is nothing like good optional or bad optional. It is more about availability of books. It is more about availability of guidance and definitely your interest. That makes optional as a good optional. Otherwise, out of 26, 29, whatever the number of the optionals there, people can score good. People score good in political science, score good in physics also, in chemistry also. So there's nothing like bad optional. But one should be careful before choosing optional that as per the syllabus, resources are available or not, guidance is available or not. You can say advanced books are available or not. If all these things are available, and I would say proper guidance is there, so one can choose any of the options.
Okay, sir, Matthew just mentioned that interest should be the prime factor behind any selection of optional. So sir, tell me one thing, how one can decide that he is having a genuine interest in political science? Say for example, they have a common subject in NCERT. They all go for NCERTs from 6th to class 12. So my question to you, sir, if a person is there and he is having very deep interest in the political science subject of NCERT of class 11th and 12th, then is it possible that he will have a genuine interest in the political science?
I guess this is with Matthew. Are you asking to me?
Yeah, you, sir. You only.
So, sorry, can you please repeat question?
Sir, the question is that how someone can decide that he is having genuine interest in political science. Is it possible by going to the NCERT of class 11 and 12, he can decide that, yes, I'm having a lot of interest in this political science?
Look, apart from that, I would say, if you are more interested, are keen to know about global affairs, how India is conducting its activities across the world, you are interested in national politics, if you have certain philosophical bent, you are going to like this subject a lot, basically.
Okay.
But if someone thinks like as a discipline, or political science as a discipline, then mindset is different. When you try to look around you and find, okay, this is what the national politics, Indian stand on any of global issues, or Indian approach against terrorism, and you'll find it, okay, I should go through these things. So obviously you have an interest. I would add on, you can test it with whatever the news you read in newspaper. If you choose such news and you are interested in before making your mind for the optional subject, then you can think of that you could be good in the subject.
Okay, fine. Thank you, sir. Matthew, tell me one thing. Whenever we choose any kind of optional, then the thing is that we need to revise that optional always, because just before the mains, we have few days and all we have to revise. But this is a deterrence among the students, that political science, it took so much time even to revise. Even to revise the political science, the students take 10 days, 15 days. So what's your personal experience in this revision of political science?
Probably the first revision would take a long time, but as we keep revising more and more, at least 7 to, like, even for your first attempt, you would need at least 7 to 8 revisions. So by the time you reach your 7th or 8th revision, it won't take much time. Probably at most it will take like 2 days or 3 days, because, like, for example, paper 1 part A, that's huge. Paper 1 part A is very big. For example, the philosophers, the thinkers are there. Apart from that, the theory subjects are there. So those some specific areas would take a lot of time, because you are planning to attempt like 3 questions from there and 2 questions from here. So by then we would have a broad idea. We'll have, okay, I will be attempting more questions from here. So I'd stress more on those areas. So, but in the end, your last revision would take you at the most 2 days or maybe 3 days. So it would keep reducing your first time. So you should, my suggestion would be to make sure you're very thorough with the syllabus. You should be very thorough with whatever you make notes, because I had made notes, like in my second attempt, I had made notes for most of the topics. And because it's my own notes, it's very easy to revise. So it's not possible to revise a big fan book of like 400, 500 pages and in like 1 hour or 2 hours. It's not possible. So, but if you have condensed notes, then it becomes very easy, because then it stores in your mind also. You know exactly, okay, in my page 4 here, the topic is here, the thinkers are here. So that reduces time a lot. It makes things very efficient. And since the material is small, it's easier to recollect also in the exam hall, because time is a major factor. So making notes here is the first priority, and increasing the number of revisions. Keeping first time, if it's taking you 7 days, means that means you are not very thorough with the subject yet. So keep revising until you reach a point where you can recollect the entire thing in like probably 1 or 2 days.
Okay, fine. Matthew, one more question to you. I am making a claim that a student of political science should not read anything from the paper 2 of GS. He can leave entirely the polity, he can leave entirely the ethics of that philosophers and all, thinkers and all, and he can also leave entirely international relations. Is it correct?
No, sir. I think that's a very wrong idea. International relations, yes, that can be left out, because paper 2 part B in optional paper it's so broad that it covers almost all the topics in general studies also. So because in general studies part paper 2, almost 4 questions come from international relations. But here, it's the same. Only difference is the approach of writing the answer. That is different, because we don't have to quote any scholars. We don't have to quote any theories. It's mostly a very, very objective analysis of the facts, what we already know. It's very simple. So international relations can be left out completely because it's overlapping. But GS2, for example, the Indian government and polity, which is paper 1, part B, in optional paper, but that is not at all overlapping. What we study in general studies forms the basis of political science, of the Indian government and polity, IGP section of the optional. But it cannot be there is no real overlap, because the sources are different. We'll have to study more in depth. We'll be analyzing the issues in a different manner based on what experts have written. So it's very different. So only that international relations part is same. Ethics, yes. ethics, as you said, sir, the philosopher's part can be left out completely. I didn't even touch them. And I was very happy if they asked, because like Rawls, they ask sometimes, Mahatma Gandhi, they ask sometimes. So those we can easily score because we are so thorough with the entire topic. It's no challenge at all. But paper two, Indian government and polity, no, that will have to be prepared separately completely.
Okay, thank you, Matthew. Piyush sir, a question to you. There is a deterrence among the student that whenever, for example, any student, they take subsequent attempts, right? First attempt, two attempts, third attempt. And there is a general apprehension that whenever we have to attempt political science in the subsequent attempt, we have to study again IGP and again international relations because both subjects are quite dynamic in nature. Sir, what's your take on this?
Look, what I say, again studying is not true in terms of whole new content. Again studying in terms of addition of certain new facts, addition of certain new events that is happening all around the world. Basics of foreign policy remain similar for a long time. Maybe with certain changes, new dimension and elements will come. So you need to just add on. It is not about, a complete revision. This is a myth or misconception. I would say that every year you need to prepare IR or IGP in a new way. This is not true. You need to add on definitely new dimensions, maybe new facts, maybe analysis of new events. But that is not a complete new thing. Basics remain the same. You maybe go for new scholars, their commentaries, but theoretical framework almost remains the same. That doesn't change much. So I would say, if I have to examine it in terms of percentage, so I would say hardly 20% or maybe 25% things maybe the new you have to prepare for these two sections. Otherwise, it remains same. In case of IGP, it is less than 25% of the section.
Okay. Piyush sir, anyhow, students have to be very much thorough with respect to current affairs. Means even if you're not the student of political science, you need to read current affairs thoroughly, even of IR, of Indian government politics and all. So a student, say someone who is reading in general studies in current affairs, so is that sufficient for validation in political science every year?
Yeah. Those who are studying current affairs, they can use the similar current affairs for political science. But definitely, approach is required. I mean, because daily you read a lot of things. All current affairs is not required. But definitely, in a particular way of understanding, or if you can add on certain portions, analysis, then it is going to help you a lot. But if you are just thinking you'll just add on as a whole, whatever you're studying, it is not going to work. You need to refine that current affairs and put it at the right place. This is equally important. It is not just merely addition or subtraction. It is, I would say, that refined addition and subtraction. So reading current affairs is going to help a lot in political science. These days, paper 1B and 2B is based on a lot of contemporary themes, basically, which students are in touch directly or indirectly. But when they are writing political science, they need to just refine their approach and learn, I would say, dimensional analysis. Once it happens, then it could be used properly.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Matthew, my question to you, since you are from technical background and you have qualified UPSC, say the person who is not from this political science background and he has to understand a lot of concepts are there in political science. For example, say allegory of cave of Plato, then we have Hobbes' theory of state. So Marxism is there. So what do you think, what is the role of a teacher in this concept building exercise of political science?
It is actually very important because, for example, in the beginning, my first attempt, it was terrible because it was not just because I couldn't understand the concepts. Concepts are not very difficult, but the problem is when questions are asked, somebody from technical background, we look in terms of like inputs and outputs. Like we have like a specific formula. We think, okay, if in the textbook here, this much of passage is given. So if we copy paste this passage, we are supposed to get this much marks. That's how it works. And for maths or physics, you write this formula, you get the marks. There is no like black and white. But in humanities, it's not like that. It's different shades of gray. There is no black and white. So there is no right and wrong does not come and play here much. But it's about like if it is a good answer or a better answer or a great answer. So in this, I think the role of a teacher becomes quite important because the role comes in mainly in answer writing, not just in teaching or just in hearing all the theory, but if there is somebody to point out, okay, this is right, this is how you answer the question, okay, this is good. For example, like in the allegory of the cave, which you mentioned, okay, the question will not be to say just write about the allegory of the cave. It will be to analyze it based on something else, or Aristotle's criticism of it, or something. Aristotle's criticism of Plato was asked last year. So how to answer those questions in the space available in a proper critical, based on critical analysis, writing the pros and cons. So that a sir's role would be very, very important.
Okay, fine, Matthew. Piyush sir, tell me one thing. You have taught a lot of students and you teach a lot of students every year. Sir, when one should start writing practice for political science? Because in political science, I've seen that all the thinkers and everything is interlinked. For example, Aristotle is linked with Plato, Hobbes is linked with Locke. So how come one can decide that this is the right time to start at least practicing the answer writing, sir?
Okay, I would suggest that practice is a very important part of your preparation. Sometimes you may think you understand all the thinkers, you may think that you understand even question, but when it comes to writing in an organized way and to maintain flow of your writing is very much important. That is why answer writing is one of the important elements to score high in political science. Now, second question, when you should start practicing? So I would suggest that once you are through with your concepts, even interlinked concept, then you start writing. In fact, I would say that writing should not be, I would say, a complete answer style. It should be in a piecemeal way. For example, if you are discussing about Hobbes, so you can divide one concept of this Hobbes in 3-4 parts, or 2 parts, or 3 parts, and try to write that small part. And then gradually you'll find out you started linking those small parts, and then your answer is clearly over there. If anyone thinks that in its first attempt, I'm not talking about exam, in first attempt of writing, they'll write a perfect answer. So I would say it is difficult. It is a process. We learn writing as our understanding continue to grow, as our understanding continue to develop. I would say even those who qualified the examination, even they learn with their every attempt and they improve their answer writing styles. Although they are completely well versed with the subject, they know every and each concept, but they learn basically every time what they can place where, that come with the practice point. So my suggestion is that students, once they are clear about the concept, they should start writing, and their writing skill will gradually improve as their connectivity and understanding will improve further. So it is not something you'll be sure I'm done with the understanding and writing, no practice is required. Practice is required till the last day of writing your exam.
Fine. Thank you, sir. Matthew, Piyush sir has mentioned that connecting is very important. That is quite true that in political science, connection is very important. For example, let's take the example of Kautilya. So Kautilya is also there in paper 1. Machiavelli is known as Indian Kautilya. Then Kautilya is there in IGP. Then again, we can connect the realism in paper 2 with Kautilya. So how do we connect the dots, and what's your personal experience? How did you connect so many dots in the political science?
That's a tricky question, because it will not be given in any specific textbook, or like there will be references to scholars here and there, like for example, like Kautilya in one place, but it could be used in different areas. But this would come only through experience, and this is where a teacher could come in handy. If there is somebody to ask, okay, is this acceptable? Can we, for example, one example which I often quote is that of Michael Walzer. So he is a communitarian philosopher who has written about a criticism of John Rawls. Yeah, he can be quoted in a question on justice, but he has also given a concept called the complex equality. So he can be quoted, that complex equality can be quoted in equality topics also. But it is not given in any textbook. Any textbook, he would be mentioned in only the justice chapter, but he will not be mentioned in the equality chapter. So that analysis, only when we keep reading it a lot, only when we understand, and in the end, we will have to try it out. We'll have to ask somebody, like for example, if there is a teacher or a professor whom we have, so we can ask, okay, sir, is it acceptable to do this with this basic? If a question like this comes, can we use the same philosophy? Then they could say, okay, that is too broad, or if it is it's not relevant, then we can move on. But it usually takes time. It comes only through practice. So my suggestion would be to write a lot of tests, so that gives you an opportunity to experiment quite a lot. So that, failure, like practicing in practice, failing during practice is it's far easier, far better for yourself and for everybody else also, rather than failing during the actual exam. So write tests, keep experimenting a lot, and whatever works, update, whatever has worked, take it and put it into your notes. For example, I have added each and every interlinkage, I have mentioned it into my notes. And the best answers, good answers which we have written, which some professor or sir has already said is great. You take that answer and keep that answer for future reference. So if there is an extra tick mark, or somebody has written good, that's a good reference, then you can keep it in mind. And because these same tactics can be applied over and over again. So I think my best suggestion is practice more.
Okay, Matthew, tell me one thing. On our website of GS Score, we have uploaded the copies of toppers, of 400 plus toppers on our website. I think your copy must be there on our website. So as a fresher, any aspirant, how come he can utilize maximum from the toppers copy of a political science?
Oh, the toppers copies are invaluable because there are many. See, especially for somebody who's coming from a technical background, understanding how to write, it takes time, because the first answer which we write we can guarantee that it will be terrible. The first answer which anybody is going to write will be terrible, because that analytical mindset won't be there. The knowledge limit will be there. So there are lots of limitations. But when we see some topper writing, because like for example, last year, I think Mallika Sudhir was there, and before that also Tina Dabi was there. So there are many toppers who has a unique style of writing. At that point, we understand what works, what doesn't work, because they would have also experimented quite a lot. Then their style would have evolved with time. Because for example, in my first attempt, my style was completely different, and my last attempt, my style, it has evolved with time. It keeps getting updated with each failure which you have, because we understand what works and what doesn't. So that painful process is being replaced, because we are learning from the failures of others, because the toppers have evolved their strategy based on others' failures and in their own. So we don't have to go through that pain again, because we can learn through others' pain. So I think it's very useful how to use the toppers copy. So for that, you can just take any 2 or 3 toppers who has scored very high and compare your answer with theirs. There will be different styles, because some would be like very technical, very direct, which might not suit you. Because some guys, it might be more with a little more literary flourish, with a little more fluent language, with quoting more scholars, quoting more facts. So see a style which is very, very similar to yours, then adapt it. Then slowly you see, and eventually you will have to develop. You cannot copy those answers. You can take points, you can take the style, answer writing pattern. For example, the introduction, statement, counter statement, conclusion. So that style can be we can learn, because it's very important.
Thank you, Matthew. Piyush sir, tell me one thing, sir. As a teacher, you check on daily basis lot of answers and all, right? And suppose a question is there. I will just put a question to you that critically analyze the relationship between India and US in context of China. If this question is in the answer sheet of political science, and if the same question is in the answer sheet of paper 2 of GS, sir, what do you expect from the students to write in a different approach in both of these papers?
Okay. When such question has to be written in general studies, the approach should be more factual. The approach should be more description plus analysis based, where you need to provide all important visits, treaties, facts, and certain analysis in dimension of political implication, economic implication, strategic implication. But if you're writing in political science, then here the theoretical dimension of Indian policy towards US and China, the overall shift in global politics are changes, are transformation that is coming at the global level, how it is impacting the interrelationship. This is another important dimension. Apart from this, I would say mentioning of the scholars, their commentaries become more important than your general studies part. So in nutshell, I would say in optional, you need to be more vertical. You need to go for more vertical analysis, in-depth analysis, where you discuss it from the different theoretical point of view also, where name of the scholar and scholars' commentaries are required. But in general studies, you can miss this point and can write a general answer with proper facts, with proper information.
Okay, fine. Thank you, sir. Matthew, tell me one thing. Matthew, tell me one thing that there are so many scholars in political science, so many scholars. Some of them are categorically given the syllabus, but apart from that, so many scholars are there. So what was your personal strategy to remember so many scholars and especially the comments and counter comments? What was your strategy, personal strategy?
There are many scholars here because apart from our political philosophers, that's very limited. We learn about them in depth. But when there are other scholars in many areas, like for example, equality, justice, we do not need to know too much in depth about their points of view. So what I used to do is I take each line of each area which we have to prepare, for example, theories of state or liberty. Just take that topic. And at that point, we note down when in any standard textbook, like for example, Haywood or Gauba, or take a standard textbook, wherever there is a reference, like for example, it could be a direct quote, or it could be like a criticism or support or against. There could be many areas. It would just be a reference. So it would be just how these scholars have quoted the other scholars. Like secondary reference. So you take that line out, take their idea out and write them down. If that idea is not clear, what I do is I go and search for a summary of what they have written. For example, if it's not possible to go and read like a 200-page book just to get one line out of it. So it's not reasonable. We do not have time for that. So go for a summary or a short condensation of what their ideas are. Which is often found in most of these standard textbooks, or it could be found online also. Good summaries are there. So from that summary, we have to condense it in our own words, so that we can use those codes, so that we can use those names. So add them into our notes, add them, update them, and finally, only after that we can use them. We'll reach a level where we can actually use them in our answers, and we'll have to keep revising. For example, the moment you take like a criticism of John Rawls. So immediately the scholars like for example Nozick, Sandel, all of them should just come to our mind immediately. So there cannot be a delay. So for that, again, we'll have to keep revising. We can make flashcards. Flashcards is something which I used to make. For example, each topic you have, and behind you write whatever scholars' names are there. And I was very thorough with those ideas, what they had. If a beginner is not very thorough with what their ideas are, then we can make specific flashcards for their names and their ideas also. so that it stays in your mind, because so that that time gap is not there. That information should come instantaneously. Uh, so practice and revision, that's the only way out.
Okay, thank you, Matthew. Piyush sir, tell me one thing, sir. Is there any scope of innovation in political science? Now, what do you mean by innovation? For example, say if J.S. Mill was a reluctant Democrat, then instead of writing that according to J.S. Mill, some conditions should be infused in democracy, can we write that it is suggested that some conditions should be infused to save the democracy? So, is it mandatory to quote only scholars in political science, or there can be some further innovation in there, sir, in the answer?
Okay. When it comes to paper one, so there is a less space of innovation in paper one, section one. I won't say that we need to be completely stick with the scholar, but definitely we need to be stick with the scholars. Whatever these scholars have said, we have to follow those lines. Although in some cases we can take liberty if we can find glimpses of those things in modern system are happening. But it should be always, the writing style should be in such a way that you are not making a research claim. You are writing in a general way. This is a very important point to learn. You cannot say that any concept given by Plato seems to be applicable. You can say there could be similarity, or you can find it could be analyzed in the similar directions, such type of languages. So it is not claiming that you are 100% sure that what we have said it is correct. You are just you can say trying. You can say similarity that works. Such type innovations works and it is allowed. In paper 2, when we talk about India and world, here innovations has a lot of scope. Why I am saying innovations has a lot of scope? Because there is a multiple perspective of writing answer, and one cannot claim that it is the best way of writing answer. As much as dimension you can include, your answer is going to be relatively better. So here, if you read something in different context, and if you read something in a different context, you clubbed both and come up with the new conclusions, here you can write. Here is the benefit of innovation. But in paper one, there is a less chance of innovation. I would like to add on here. If question says, in your opinion, so they are mainly asking about popular opinion rather than your individual opinion, basically. So you need to make the difference in this.
Sir, we will now wind up this session, sir. My last question to you. If any person decides that he has to take political science and he wishes to join any of the classes or coaching after 5 days, 5 weeks, 2 years, what he should do to make some kind of foundation for political science right from day one, sir?
Can you please repeat your question again?
Sir, say some aspirant have decided that he has to take political science and he has to join some coaching after a few time, like few months, few years. So what he should do now to build some kind of foundation for political science?
Okay, look, what I believe, if someone is willing to do classes, then my suggestion is not to read political science. For political thinkers, Western political thinkers, if someone will read it by his or her own, then it is going to take relatively more time, and maybe understanding also get distorted. So my suggestion is that no need to read any book related to specifically Western political thinker, but definitely for international relations, for Indian government and politics, if you can read certain stuff from where you can draw historical examples, I would say like this. If you read world history, if you read First World War, Second World War, what happened after the Second World War, that may help you a lot in paper 2A. Paper 2A as well as paper 2B. Before classes. In a similar way, if you study modern history, that help you a lot in IGP section as well as in Indian political thinker section basically. So reading Constitution could be a good idea. Going through basic NCERT just to understand the term could be a good idea, but it is not advisable to go for any advanced book if you are looking for to join any classes. If you are not looking for, then definitely you can read advanced book, but for before the classes, I'm not advised.
Okay, thank you, Piyush sir. Matthew, we have discussed almost all the questions. Your last advice to the student, the aspirants of political science.
Political science, it's a beautiful subject, but sometimes it takes time to understand how to crack, how to score more. Like, for example, in my first attempt, I got only a double-digit mark in the paper, political science paper to international relations. So it was a horrible score. So at that point, I thought I would never, it's impossible. I even thought I'll change the subject. But then sometimes all what you need is a slightly different approach. You know, like I attempted more dynamic questions. I changed my style of answer writing, and the next year I scored around 150 marks. So that the quality difference comes when you make the changes. So, so I'd say practice more, write more here, and at the same time, you'll have to be a little patient. Be patient with yourself. As Piyush sir said, some of the attending classes is great, because it helps you understand problems. And now everything is available on YouTube. Now everything is there on net. So even like Western political philosophers, it's so universally studied that it's not at all difficult to get any good quality classes or good quality materials. So update yourself, keep improving, be patient, because it takes time. Political, it's a beautiful subject. It's big, but we can score very, very high marks also.
Fine. Thank you, Matthew, and thank you, Piyush and Matthew. From the entire team of GS Score, we wish you all the best for the future. And we are very happy that you were somewhere part of GS Score and we have produced a topper like you. So very best to you. And Piyush sir, thank you very much for taking so much time for us, sir. Thank you.
Thank you to both of you.